today's welding project is going to be cutting some plugs, welding them on the ends for a furniture foot, and then you'll be able to add a furniture leveling foot drill and tap. So today we're going to do the welding aspect of it. I'm going to show you how I do it. It's pretty simple, but I realize that it's a necessary step in almost every piece that I do because not everybody has level floors and whatnot. So I recommend buying flat bar in length to the size that you need. I didn't have any, so I cut these into strips. This is probably 8 gauge or so, just enough to not overwork yourself in cutting them and drilling, tapping them, but enough to where they weld on and take enough of a tap. So using their Evolution, the bandsaw is my usual go-to, but I haven't used this in a while, so I thought I'd fire it up. I cut these off of this bigger plate, and now I'm just going to cut them to length, which is just barely under or flush with the edge, so that when I weld it, there isn't an excess amount of grinding. If I were cutting all these, and I need probably 20 of them, I would set a stop up and do this, but I'm just going to show the first one. So I've made a Sharpie mark. I'm going to cut on that line. Little blank, pretty close. Using a Lincoln 140, little 110 box. The way I set this up to do the welding is I simply take a piece that's smaller, square stock that's smaller. The piece to be welded leans up against it. I push that up, put a little pressure on it, and then I tack it. But before that, if you're welding that, it takes, because this end cap is thick, you won't get a ton of penetration in the weld. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bevel or chamfer that so that the weld has a, then when I grind it, it'll actually leave a valley for the weld to fill in, and then it won't have a thin or a weak spot, or you won't see the weld line. So I'm going to grind that real quick so that I have a couple of little bevels. Okay, so now you'll see a little void or valley where I've ground the two pieces, so there's just a little chamfer, just enough for the weld to pull up, drop down in, and make those two pieces of metal one. And then when I grind it back off, I'm not if a weld didn't completely penetrate, not taking it back off. So then my stop piece holds the piece to be welded, and then this piece just comes up and rests up against it. You can clamp both of them, tap them together so there's pressure, but generally the piece is pretty square and it's not going to move around when you weld. Put a couple of tacks. So let's set the machine up here. Make sure your gas is on if you're running gas. I'm running the 140 on C at about 3.5 feed rate. Should probably be wearing sleeves. I'm only going to do this one, so it's not gonna flash and burn my arms. But if I were welding all of these 20, I would certainly have protection on. Clip my this 030 wire. Clip my feed so that I have a nice nice energy start, nice weld start. A little bit shorter. So this one's fixed. It's not going to slide out on me. I'm going to take these two, line them up, hold this with my with the palm of my hand, and just hit a couple of tacks. The cap is on. It hasn't lifted, and now I can just flip it over and run a bead. I'm actually going to turn around this way so you can see it. I'm splitting the end cap to the tube so that I get a penetration where I need to. Sometimes I'll run it all the way out to the edge so that when I grind it, it'll be smooth and transitional. Or if the cap was a little bit low, then it fills it in enough. But I'm pretty sure this one's flush. Okay, so we're gonna grind the weld off, and then we're gonna drill and tap a 1/4-20 for the bottom. It's still a little bit warm, but it'll be all right. I'm gonna put some ear protection on, eye protection. So I've taken just the angle grinder and I've ground the weld off, rolled the corner so that it matches, just took a little touch off the edge, and now I'm going to take a leftover piece of sandpaper and straighten out the grain a little bit. Now for powder coating, that would be pretty good. You would get enough buildup where that would really not show. So, but now we need to drill a hole in the center and then tap it for the leveling foot. So for this, that steel wasn't that thick. It was, between, it's probably about 3/16, maybe a little bit less. So there's not a ton of steel there, and I'm just going to eyeball the center because this is just the sample. Hand tap. Clean those threads out. So the last step that I do, little deburr, slightly oversized bit, just clean up the edge. And then a furniture foot. You got a welded, flushed up the welds, and then a furniture foot that makes it leveling so that if they have uneven floors or you need a little bit of standoff, then you've got just your foot. And I've got about 20 of these to do, so I'm going to go do that.